Today's meeting is another déjà vu. The performance of this cheap, second-rate spectacle is played out in the Security Council by Ukrainian and European delegations on a monthly basis. And the reasons are quite clear to us. Firstly, they must not allow the attention of the world community to switch to other crises. And secondly, it is necessary to hide the panic prevailing in their own ranks. It will not be superfluous to cheer yourself up. Zelensky is well aware that the final sliding of the Ukrainian topic to the sidelines of international politics in connection with the escalation in the Middle East seriously reduces the return on his tours in Europe. He apparently thought that he would be able to endlessly and effortlessly beg for money from his Western sponsors, intimidating them with the fact that the armed forces of Ukraine are the only obstacle on Russia's way to Europe. Realizing that the aggression of the United States and Israel against Iran and the serious consequences of this crisis had confused all his cards, Zelensky did not get confused and began to advertise the combat experience of the armed forces of Ukraine with redoubled zeal. He did not hesitate to attribute to himself non-existent merits in ensuring the security of the Persian Gulf countries. According to him, I quote, "Their defense required an urgent examination, an urgent response. We have ensured this. The Ukrainian expertise has worked. Everyone recognizes this. The same is needed in Europe. Our diplomats also have a corresponding request from Asian countries, and I instructed them to work on all this promptly. The Ukrainian military is participating in consultations on how the Strait of Hormuz will continue to work. In this alternate reality, in case you didn't know, the Kyiv regime has already single-handedly unblocked the Strait of Hormuz, is exporting security around the world, and has almost triumphed over Russia. All this is nothing more than a figment of the imagination of the thieving leader of the Kiev regime, which he is trying to sell to anyone who is ready to pay for it. First of all, the terminally ill Russophobia and incapable of making responsible decisions for the current European leaders, if, of course, they can be called leaders who continue to foam at the mouth about their determination to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. However, the situation in Ukraine is very difficult. Ordinary Ukrainians refuse to fight for the country's corrupt leadership and evade service, desert, and give a tough rebuff to the military commissars, cannibals from the TCC and radical nationalists who have joined them, who in fact kidnap people in order to make up for the ever-increasing losses of the armed forces of Ukraine. The hunt for Ukrainian men is going on in broad daylight. They are pulled out of apartments and private houses, public and private transport, from hospital beds, workplaces. They are lying in wait in pharmacies and grocery stores. People are maimed, beaten to death, tear gas and electric shockers are used. Even disabled people with serious illnesses are seized. Does Zelensky want to export such security around the world? In reality, it exports only mercenaries and weapons that surface in conflict points around the world. And of course, their theatrical performances mainly on the European stage. We cannot but comment on the accusations against us regarding violations of the Easter truce announced by the President of Russia. We hope that this measure has nevertheless allowed a large number of Orthodox Christians to celebrate the great feast in a calm atmosphere. Kiev, of course, immediately rushed to accuse Russia of violating the truce. However, the Russian side recorded at least 500 ceasefire violations by the Ukrainian armed forces, and this is in just 32 hours of its action, and the armed forces of Ukraine also fired at civilian targets. There are dead and wounded among civilians. We emphasize that this measure can in no way be considered as a prologue to a long ceasefire. Russia is in favor of achieving a long-term and comprehensive settlement with the elimination of all the root causes of the conflict. There cannot and should not be any substitutions, palliatives, or delusions. Zelensky and most European leaders do not seek peace, but the continuation of the war. And this is the main reason why the Ukrainian crisis has not yet been resolved. And although European delegations today pour crocodile tears on camera about the numerous troubles and trials that have befallen the Ukrainian people, in fact, they do not care about its fate at all. At the end of last week, the Chief of the General Staff of the Belgian Armed Forces, Frederick van Sina, said in an interview that Ukraine is buying time to prepare European countries for war with Russia. This is what Kyiv is paid for, given loans. Ordinary Ukrainians are expendable. This is essentially what the Belgian general said. However, they are becoming fewer and more difficult to catch. In this regard, the Europeans are working on measures to return refugees, primarily men, to Ukraine. The development of arms production in Europe is also massive. Everything is being done to ensure that the Kyiv regime holds out for another 1.5 to 2 years. But it would not hurt to take a breather to accumulate strength. This is what they mean when they talk about a ceasefire. There is not a single sensible political force in Kyiv that would be able to resist this cannibalistic plan, and the current Ukrainian leaders continue to blindly fulfill this will. It not only guarantees their stay in power, but also personal enrichment. However, the result of this scenario written by Westerners will be very tragic. Thank you for your attention.